Hello guys, welcome back to GateTV. I'm joined with joint Margate manager and skipper Ben Greenhalgh after Margate's very dramatic 3-3 draw at home to Brightlingsea Regent. Ben, that's a great reaction I think from you and the boys after losing 4-0 to Folkestone. How you feeling, mate?
Yeah, I'm at the end of the day I'm positive. It was always going to be a 6-pointer. We're at home. If I'm being honest, we want the 3 points. I think we played well enough to get the 3 points. I thought we attacked really well. I thought there were some really good patterns. Created probably more than 10 chances, which is something we haven't been doing for a while. Looked like scoring goals, but if we're being brutally honest, we've probably gifted them 3 goals, which obviously other teams haven't been gifting us. But that's at the end of the day, that's something we can work on. That's not all down to the defence, but if we look at the defence today, we've got Cam Brodie playing right back, 21 years old. He's a centre mid. We've got Eman, who's 19 years old, centre half. We've got Pete, who's 21 years old, centre half, and we've got Jake, who's an academy lad, 17 years old. So if we look at what we've had to put up with today, with Freddie coming out and Harry getting injured on Thursday night and Harrison getting injured and Taylor being injured, I think they've put in an unbelievable performance. And I've got to be honest with Jake, to step in, it's got to be nerve-wracking, chucked into the deep end, first appearance for the club, and he's starting against in a 6-point battle up. I thought it was absolutely superb. None of the goals came down his side. He looked solid on the ball. So that's something that we're trying to get across, that we're not going to go and bring in short-term players that's going to turn up on a Saturday and be a dual reg and then they're not here on Tuesday and everyone's wondering where they're gone. At the end of the day, the signings that we want to make, like Phil Roberts, they're long-term, they're good options, and they're going to actually build the change room. We're looking at getting a change room of maybe 16 senior players that are going to be in and around it and to be honest, have a good time. Because that's what we're here for. We're coming down to Margate and we want to enjoy playing football. And I've said to them in the change room there, I've asked for their thoughts and everybody's enjoyed themselves today. We've actually played some really good football at times and we're getting the most out of each other. So I think the biggest positive is that if we don't have the right players coming in, like we said, we've put 7 days in, we're waiting to hear back from players, hopeful of 3 coming in this week. If they don't come in, we're trusting the youth. We're trusting what we've got rather than doing a quick fix. We'll look for the long term.
Obviously, it is our second 3-3 draw, second 3-3 dramatic draw at home. The first one against Harringay. It's the same feeling every time, but just how special is it when you're on that pitch, being a part of the team that's got those fans going right at the last?
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing because I couldn't imagine of how I would have felt if we hadn't got any points from today's game, just because of the performance we put in. I think the first 30 minutes we could have been 4-5-0 up. And we let in, like we said, we let in sloppy goals, which we shouldn't be letting in. We've come in at half-time 2-2 going into the win, so it was always going to be a game where if we then got a point, it was a positive. Eman makes the mistake for the third goal, and look at him at the end. He's made the difference. I think he's been superb as well. He's made the difference and scored the header at the back post. So this is the mentality that we want to implement into the players, and I think they're absolutely showing it now. So if we've got that character, we're starting to work the patterns. If we can cut away the silly mistakes, there's something there.
Obviously, like I say, we've got a few players out, quite a few defensive players as well. Have you got any idea on how soon all of those will be back then?
Yeah, look, for a first spell in, whether we call it management, interim management, whatever we're doing, for a first spell in that, I've been ringing up Jay, I've been ringing up Ricky, just to almost looking at advice, because I can't believe when you're a player and you notice that 4 or 5 aren't available, you think that's all right, this player might come in, and you don't really think about it too much. Whereas when you're on the other side of things and your luck's not going your way, like Harry doing his ankle in training, we weren't even working too hard. He's just he blocked a shot and he's twisted his ankle as he's landed. Freddie in the warm-up, his back's gone in the warm-up. So you just think, we're looking around each other, the experienced boys, going, how is your luck? And that's sort of where we're at. And at the end of the day, the boys that have stepped in have stepped in. But regarding them coming back, I'm hoping Taylor is going to be available to train on Thursday. I'm pushing Harrison to come back Thursday. But again, we don't know where his hamstring's at. It's a week or 2. It's no more than that. So nothing too major. Blackie's back from suspension. Harry Hudson, he said to me he's going to be available next Saturday, but we don't really know because his ankle has ballooned. We're only 2 days in from that injury. Freddie, it's like a spasm in his back, so it might be a nerve situation. It's one of them you could wake up next day and there's nothing there. But obviously Mams will take care of that. And I think from there, I think we can start building again. I think if you look at that, we're missing 4 or 5 players today, and the performance that the 11 have put in, I think there's a massive positive.
Do we think that today can be a big momentum boost going into Tuesday's cup game against Whitehawk, and then hoping we get through that? Are they good then 2 games to really build that momentum and push on and try and fight our way up the league? Yeah,
definitely. Like you mentioned earlier, getting that result, just hearing the crowd. And you know what? We were 3-2 down and heard them the whole second half, which is hard because I'm a Man United fan. I've gone through all the periods over the last 7 or 8 years of losing my head when we're 1-0 down or 2-1 down and things, and thinking it is what it is. But they kept going, they kept it positive, and I think because of that we built momentum on the pitch. So that momentum can only kick on. We've gone from a performance against Folkestone where I hoped we could have got something out of it, but if we're being honest, we weren't big enough, experienced enough, old enough to play on a horrible pitch and win a non-league battle. But then we've come today and we've proved what we can do, what we can play, and there's just little tweaks that whether that's a player coming back in or stuff we can work on Thursday night. But again, we're going to Tuesday, and that's a cup that we want to do well in. We've got 2 quarter-finals to play for, and at the end of the day, look, I'm 30 years old. I don't know, I'd love to say I'll play for another 10 years, but you don't know how many things you're going to win in football. So we're going to go full strength in either game. But like we said before, our full strength is our whole squad.
I just want to touch on you personally, Ben. Obviously, the video at the start of the season when you got the captain's armband, I do remember you saying that it's not just about being that player on the pitch now, it's about being that leader. Now, mid-season, you've got an extra bit of responsibility, joint management with Reece Prestige. Mm-hmm. How tough has it been for you to adjust, I guess?
I think at first, just being the captain was difficult because I started focusing on what other players were doing, whether other players were good enough in pre-season, and I remember trying to communicate too much rather than actually focusing on my own game. And then I kicked on into the season and actually got a bit more out of myself to then prove this is why I'm captain. Because look, let's be honest, there's different captains around. If you could have Blackie as your captain, he's going to go and rat about and win tackles and be that Roy Keane. Whereas personally, I see myself as leading a bit more with scoring goals, creating chances. Probably not going to be the guy that goes flying into tackles. But then at the same time, where I'm working with, I've been working full-time coaching for 7 or 8 years. I can use that in the dressing room, and whether that's young lads coming in, giving them the right experience, talking to them in the right way. But I have to be honest to the boys, and Prez will say exactly the same thing. The amount of respect that we've been given, because it's not difficult when you get promoted in a role, and you sort of want to focus on your football, you want to focus on your coaching and things like this, and they've just absolutely bought into it. So that for me sums up that we've got a good dressing room and we've got a lot to build on, because they've bought into it, they've got the buzz for it, and if they're actually taking on what we're saying, which they are, which we can see in the patterns today, then that makes me feel even better, because the stuff that I'm trying to implement into training is actually coming out on the pitch. So it's not too much. You can ask my wife and my kids, because I'll be honest, the last 2 days I don't think I've come off the phone. It's exactly the same with Reece, trying to get players done. This whole 7-day nonsense is an absolute nightmare. Some clubs have waived things and let us talk to players, some clubs haven't, so it's a waiting game. And I think the hardest thing on this side of things is the amount, like when Jay and Jukes were here, it was, I'd offer them players, I'd say players, but you're never on the other side of things where you're actually chasing the player up. Because we've been in situations where I'm ringing Alan saying this player's going to sign, and then suddenly 2 hours later he's signed at another club. So they're the headaches that you've got to deal with. But I'm enjoying it. Whatever happens. If the club choose to go another manager, I'd hope to help him out in the way that we're doing now. If they choose to continue with us for the moment, we're going to keep putting absolutely everything in and hopefully getting the results.
And obviously, finally, we'll just touch on Tuesday's game against Whitehawk. What do we know about the club at the moment? How are they going to come and try and get a result out of us?
Whitehawk, they're a good team. They've always been a good team. And I know a few of their players, so we've done our homework on them. We know what to expect. Being a home game, that is an advantage for us, because obviously when you're at home you don't want to lose games. We've proved that tonight. So we're going to try and work on things to play at home, and we're going to try and go on the front foot like I believe we did today, and try and excite the crowd, and actually, like we said, try and enjoy our football. But they're a good non-league side. We can look at them and say we're a division up, but if Whitehawk came into this division, they'd be comfortable in this division. So that's just the way the pyramid works. And if you looked at it from their point of view, Isthmian Cup, they're the lower league, they're in a quarter-final, that's a big game for them. They've got nothing to lose, so we're going to do our homework on them. We're going to speak to the boys on Sunday and Monday about what we can do. Me and Prez and Elliot will have a meeting and see what we might have to change, whether there's going to be changes here and there, and we're going to do absolutely everything we can to get ourselves into a semi-final.
Cheers, man. Well done, mate.
No worries. Cheers, Reece.